International. It's time for the news.
In today's top stories, President Abdelmajid Tebboune has pleaded for a new world order based on equity and cooperation among the nations in his address to the 78th session of the UN General Assembly in New York. The first Algerian bank to open abroad, the Algerian Union Bank, was inaugurated today in the Mauritanian capital Nouakchott following the instructions of the President of the Republic aimed at facilitating investment and trade between Algeria and Africa. A ceasefire agreement with Azerbaijan was today reached to end 2 days of fighting in the separatist Nagorno-Karabakh region. Hello and welcome to Radio Algeria International. I'm Jamal Zamani. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, has pleaded for a new world order based on equity and cooperation among the nations, advocating the emergence of a world that ensures security and development to all the nations. Addressing the 78th session of the UN General Assembly, now taking place in New York, he recalled that Algeria endeavored from the UN floor 50 years ago to highlight the dysfunctioning that characterizes the world order and pleaded for a new one based on the principles for which the UN has been created.
ما ضلت بلادي منذ حوالي 50 سنة خلت ومن هذا المنبر بالذات عن مكامن الخلل في النظام الدولي الحالي ودعت إلى نظام دولي جديد تكون فيه المساواة بين الدول التي تأسست من أجلها منظمة الأمم المتحدة.
He affirmed that Algeria was endeavoring to make of dialogue and debate a fundamental claim for which people have fought to allow for a world where coexistence, solidarity, cooperation and equity among the nations will prevail. In this respect, President Tebboune warned against the unprecedented impact of the conflicts and crises in the world that caused the displacement of millions of people and led to a change in the international relations. This, he went on to say, turned cooperation into confrontation within a world context marked by a multidimensional emergency. President Tebboune stated that the acceleration of the international negotiations on the reform of the UN Security Council according to a global approach should be priority for the international community to achieve a consensus on a genuine reform guaranteeing a more transparent representation.
فإن بلادي ستنضم إلى مجلس الأمن حاملة لتطلعات شعوب القارة الإفريقية والعالم العربي وداعية إلى تجاوز منطق تسيير الأزمات بل اعتماد مقاربة ترتكز على الحلول النهائية للأزمات من خلال معالجة أسبابها الجذرية.
The President of the Republic evoked Algeria's commitment towards a common African position to put an end to the historic injustice witnessed by the African continent. He said that Algeria, who is to join the UN Security Council as a non-permanent member, is fully aware of the responsibility she has been endowed with and will share her rich experience in the mediation and promotion of the peaceful settlements of conflicts. President Tebboune recalled, in this respect, Algeria's unswerving position in favor of the fair causes and in support of the oppressed peoples who fight for freedom, on the top of which the Palestinian and the Sahrawi issues. The President of the Republic called for the holding of a special session of the UN General Assembly to grant Palestine the full membership of the Assembly and urged the International Court of Justice to meet the Assembly's request and to rule on the human rights abuses in the Palestinian territories, including occupied Jerusalem.
أدعو محكمة العدل الدولي إلى الاستجابة لطلب الجمعية العامة لمنظمة الأمم المتحدة المؤرخة في 30 ديسمبر 2022 بإصدار رأيها الاستشاري حول الممارسات التي تمس حقوق الإنسان في الأراضي الفلسطينية المحتلة بما فيها القدس الشريف، متطلعا معكم إلى انتصار الحق وإنصاف كفاح الشعب الفلسطيني. كما أدعو من هذا المنبر مجلس الأمن إلى إصدار قرار يؤكد بموجبه حماية الحل الدولتين التي يحظى بإجماع دولي ووقف الأعمال أحادية الجانب للسلطة القائمة على الاحتلال وعلى رأسها الأنشطة الاستيطانية في الأراضي الفلسطينية المحتلة، مع تجديد المطالبة وألح على ذلك تجديد المطالبة بعقد جمعية عامة استثنائية لمنح دولة فلسطين العضوية الكاملة فيها. وأكرر مع تجديد المطالبة بعقد جمعية عامة استثنائية لمنح دولة فلسطين العضوية الكاملة في الجمعية العامة للأمم المتحدة.
He urged the UN Security Council to endorse a resolution on the implementation of the two-state solution while reiterating Algeria's aspiration to achieve the decolonization of Africa's last colony and allow the Western Sahara people to fulfill its right to self-determination through the holding of a fair and free referendum according to the UN-AU settlement plan adopted by the UN Security Council and by the two parties at issue in 1991. President Tebboune hailed the UN chief's relentless efforts to reinforce the organization's role and to meet the aspirations of the peoples and push for a reactivation of direct negotiations to allow for the organization of a self-determination referendum according to UN resolutions.
ونتطلع إلى الوصول إلى تصفية نهائية لظاهرة الاستعمار مع آخر مستعمرة إفريقية، حيث لا زال الشعب بأكمله في الصحراء الغربية محروما من حقه الأساسي في تقرير المصير عبر استفتاء حر ونزيه يتوافق مع خطة التسوية الأممية الإفريقية التي اعتمدها مجلس الأمن سنة 1991 ووافق عليها الطرفان، والتي تظل تنتظر التطبيق. وفي ظل هذا الواقع وأمام المحاولات الهادفة إلى خلق شرعية من لا شرعية، تقع على الأمم المتحدة مسؤولية صون مصداقية قراراتها مع واجب الإدراك الجماعي بأن دعم التنفيذ الكامل لقراراتها هو حفظ لهيبة هذه المنظمة. وفي هذا الإطار أجدد دعمنا لجهود الأمين العام لمنظمة الأمم المتحدة السيد أنطونيو غوتيريش ومبعوثه الشخصي في مساعي إعادة بحث مسار المفاوضات المباشرة من أجل تنظيم استفتاء يسمح بتقرير مصير الشعب الصحراوي طبقا لقرارات مجلس الأمن.
The head of state also highlighted the efforts made by Algeria to reach peaceful settlements to try and bridge the gap between the belligerents and achieve a rapprochement of visions, notably in Libya, Mali, Niger, and Sudan. Evoking Algeria, he highlighted the major gains achieved as part of the Sustainable Development Goals, notably in the sectors of education, health, electricity, and water, as well as in promoting and reinforcing human rights. He further pointed out that major efforts were made by Algeria to promote women's rights, to achieve their integration, and to involve the youth in the development process in the cultural, economic, and political fields. As you followed in our top stories, the Algerian Union Bank, the first Algerian bank to open abroad, was inaugurated today in the Mauritanian capital Nouakchott in a geostrategic move for the Algerian state, both economically and politically, following the instructions of the President of the Republic aimed at facilitating investment and trade between Algeria and Africa. The Minister of Finance, Laziz Faid, and the Minister of Trade and Export Promotion, Tayyip Zitouni, attended the inauguration of the new financial institution alongside a number of Mauritanian ministers in the presence of the Algerian ambassador to Mauritania, Mohamed Benatou. The Algerian Union Bank, based in the heart of the capital Nouakchott, is the result of a partnership between 4 Algerian public banks. The Ministers of Finance, Trade and Export Promotion are due to inaugurate the second Algerian bank in the Senegalese capital Dakar, the second Algerian bank abroad, named the Algerian Bank of Senegal. 14 hours, 40 minutes Algiers time. You're listening to Radio Algeria International. The Prime Minister, Mr. Ahmed bin Abdurrahman, has chaired a meeting of the government on examining a preliminary draft general policy statement to be presented shortly to Parliament and to the presentation of the two draft executive decrees implementing the provisions of the law on the exercise of trade union rights. The aim of these two texts is to ensure better conditions for the exercise of trade union rights in line with the country's economic objectives, in particular by harmonizing the parameters of trade union representativeness, which is the main condition for exercising trade union rights and to participate in social dialogue and consultation. The new provisions will make a significant contribution to improving the national trade union landscape and to the emergence of real forces for constructive social dialogue. Now, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa reaffirmed his country's support for the Sahrawi and Palestinian causes in New York, calling for recognition of the inalienable right of the people of Western Sahara to self-determination and to work for peace in the Middle East, particularly in occupied Palestine.
We are called upon to remain true to the founding principles of the United Nations by recognizing the inalienable right of the people of Western Sahara for self-determination in line with the relevant UN General Assembly resolutions. We must work for peace in the Middle East for as long as the land of the Palestinians remains occupied, for as long as their rights are ignored and their dignity is denied. Such peace will remain elusive. The actions of the government of Israel have imperiled the possibility of a viable two-state solution. The principles of the UN Charter on Territorial Integrity and on the prohibition of the annexation of land through the use of force must be applied in this situation as well.
The Palestinian presidency has condemned the Israeli army killing of Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. The official spokesman for the Palestinian presidency, Nabil Abu Rodeina, said the ongoing Israeli aggression against the people in Gaza, Jenin, and other Palestinian cities would bring violence and escalation to the entire region. He said in a statement that the continuation of daily killings, the most recent of which was in Jenin and the Gaza Strip, and led to the death of 3 people and the injury of dozens, is the responsibility of the occupation authorities, which are pushing matters towards an all-out confrontation, the consequences of which no one will be able to bear. In a reaction, Jordan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs has strongly denounced the recent surge in Israeli actions within the occupied Palestinian territories. Ministry spokesperson Sinan Al-Majali expressed grave concerns about the ongoing cycle of violence in the region, stressing the critical need to cease all incursions into Palestinian cities. He cautioned against the dangerous repercussions of this escalating situation, emphasizing that it is likely to lead to further deterioration and increased violence. Now, UN aid resumed through the Bab al-Hawa border crossing into northwest Syria on Tuesday after months of deadlock. Some 85% of UN aid enters the northwest through Bab al-Hawa, a vital lifeline for the 4.5 million people there. More than 7 out of 10 people in northwest Syria are food insecure, and rates of infant malnourishment in particular are high. Entry of UN aid through Bab al-Hawa was suspended in July after the UN Security Council resolution which authorized the UN to use the crossing without the Syrian government's consent was vetoed by Russia. Now to one of our top stories for today. A ceasefire agreement with Azerbaijan was today reached to end 2 days of fighting in the separatist Nagorno-Karabakh region. Local authorities and Azerbaijani officials said talks between Azerbaijani officials and the breakaway region's ethnic Armenian authorities on its reintegration into Azerbaijan were scheduled to take place tomorrow Thursday in the Azerbaijani city of Yevlak. According to the region's officials, the deal was reached through negotiations with the Russian peacekeeping contingent in the region and envisions the withdrawal of Armenian military units and equipment from Nagorno-Karabakh, as well as disarming the local defense forces. It comes a day after Azerbaijan launched a military operation in Nagorno-Karabakh and used heavy artillery fire on Armenian positions there, an attack that local officials said killed or wounded scores of people. Azerbaijan has called the artillery fire an anti-terrorist operation and said it will continue until the separatist government of Nagorno-Karabakh dismantles itself and illegal Armenian military formations surrender. The escalation has raised concerns that a full-scale war in the region could resume between Azerbaijan and Armenia, which for more than 3 decades have been locked in a struggle over the mountainous territory of Nagorno-Karabakh. The most recent heavy fighting there occurred over 6 weeks in 2020. Now, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres is gathering heads of state and business leaders that he has identified as taking stronger action on climate change for a meeting aimed at building momentum ahead of the COP28 climate summit. UN Chief Antonio Guterres left big players off the lineup for his climate action summit on Wednesday, putting climate credibility above power politics. Missing from the list of 34 speakers representing countries at Guterres Climate Ambition Summit are the world's biggest emitters, China and the United States, as well as the United Arab Emirates, the host of the COP28 gathering in December. The summit will feature speeches from leaders who are responding to his call to accelerate global climate action, including Brazil, Canada, the European Union, Pakistan, South Africa, and Tuvalu. 14 hours 47 Algiers time. We're coming live to you from the capital Algiers. Now I invite you to listen to the second part of an interview conducted by Assia Bekar with Algerian poet and novelist Wahid Ziadi.
Mr. Wahid Ziadi. So the novel was also a case study for different dissertations. What were the angles studied in these researchers?
Yeah, the first one was done by a student in Gigel in 2016, and the theme was Le monde et les modes de l'imagination dans les victimes de l'imaginaire de Wahid Ziadi, the world of imagination and the mode or the way of imagination. It was mainly based on the fact of imagining. Then another one was about the characters in Les Victimes de l'Imaginaire. It was based on the psychological side of each. Another one was a psychocritic of the novel. So students mostly emphasizes the fiction and the psychological portrait of characters, and I think that they did the good choice of themes because it was based on this. Yeah.
Are there other angles of research that you may recommend for other researchers to further study the novel?
Yeah, I would like that someone would really take seriously this matter of conflict civilization, because, I think, in my humble point of view, that's the huge problem we're facing as human beings. We have to try to avoid, or at least to minimize, these kind of confrontations that lead to wars and to tragic events that we're watching on TV each day. It's really sad to get bad news each day and at any moment. And the guilty really the guilty one is a human being.
What's the solution that you may recommend for authors like you, for literary people, to deal with this issue of clash of civilizations?
You know, as a modest human being myself, I'm affected by this environment. So I don't think that there is an ideal solution, but the key word would be dialogue and tolerance, and we have to accept differences. That's it. We have to multiply meetings between different cultures. But interculturality certainly would lead to a certain intercomprehension, and this kind of interaction would let us as human beings to avoid being racist or to have stereotypes about each other. And I think that solution would be political first. Politicians have a lot to do to build those bridges that will help communities to communicate in the proper meaning of the word.
How can literature contribute to that?
Yeah, literature is really, you know, it's one of the I think that the favorite for me means to convey those messages of peace. And it has to be a little bit real and concrete. I mean, even if I use it fiction, but the message I wanted to convey to my readers is realistic. You know, the story is fictional, and there was a waltz, like a dance between fiction and reality. Fiction was just like a pretext to let the reader get a view about his own reality. So literature is a key for understanding and the learning of foreign languages. We have to value that too, because you know that when we know foreign language, we can get easily access to other cultures and to understand how they think and how they behave and how they live.
So a research conducted on the novel said that the novel, The Victims of the Imaginary, requires reading between the lines.
Absolutely, yeah,
This
between
was
the
said
lines
by
and
research.
even between the words. I'm not exaggerating, because you know
Why
I
so?
had a certain readers that I can consider as an elite. So I had certain feedbacks that they really evaluate and they value the work, the writing work. I think that we have to be aware when we read it. It's not just, as I said, a news item about a crime and a story of a family, an ordinary story. It's about huge questions, huge philosophical questions, and the reader, as that was said by André Gide, lisez-moi bien, relisez-moi. So we have to reread certain literary works to really get the true meaning and the profound meaning of it.
Yeah. So now tell us about the translation of the novel. It is translated into Arabic, right?
Right.
Yeah. So how does translation of literary works, especially that deal with issues like the one we're talking about now, which is the clash of civilizations, how does translation help in transmitting this reflection on this issue and trying to make it like a ground for debate?
Yeah, you know, that's we're using. I personally, decided to translate it into Arabic to let more Algerian readers read it, or Arabs too, because they are really interested in those kind of writings. And I tried myself. It's my own effort to translate it into English and Arabic. I'm still working on that. The main aim of translation is to make a certain extent in reaching readers and to share that thought. I don't pretend that what I'm saying in the novel is truth, and it's all based on dreamlikes and nightmareship. You know. It's about dreams and nightmares of Mahmoud, who was suffering from the mental illness. That's what made him commit the crime. And so, okay, I returned back to the novel. I'm sorry, we were talking about translation. Since certain years there are huge efforts made in our country, and young people are really more and more interested in learning foreign languages. That's a very good sign. I think that maybe in a decade, in 10 or 20 years, the Algerian mentality would positively change because of, thanks to that. Yeah.
So, how do you interact with your readers, especially in terms of when you're dealing with issues like the one we just mentioned, which is the clash of civilizations?
Yeah, we do it daily through social media, and I share certain extracts of my writings, and I each day expecting reactions, and I get them. And sometimes we talk, even online, and we share. They have a certain sense of reading. Most of my readers are really aware of the depth of the writing, and they react in a very good way, because some of them are writers too. They are from different nationalities, from Tunisia, France, Morocco, and most of them are Algerians, of course.
Wonderful. So, after this talk, many listeners will be interested in the novel, The Victims of the Imaginary. Please tell us where can we find this novel and your other works.
Yeah, it is in Al-Qobia edition in Algiers, and in great numbers of libraries throughout Algeria. And I can offer it to my readers online as a PDF file, of course. It is for free. That's a modest gift from me. That's
great. Why so? Why is it for free?
Because, my aim is not to make money out of my things. The most essential matter for me, what matters is sharing ideas and thoughts and feelings and how we conceive life, and that's it. For me, I have another consideration, another view about readers. They are friends. I already said that.
It is above. What you're saying is that your aim is above making profits.
To make it?
Your aim is above having a financial revenue out of writing.
Absolutely. And that's the truth, by the way. When I started writing, my first aim wasn't about getting a certain celebrity, or that was first to share my inner being, my deep thoughts and feelings with another human being who is the reader, of course.
Well, that's amazing, Wahid Ziadi. We are honored to have you with us for the second time. Thank you so much for being with us today. Anything you want to say now that we come to the end of our interview?
First, I have to thank you for all what you're doing and still doing to promote Algerian culture and to give a voice to Algerian writers. And I really appreciate that. And I'm honored to be invited in your...
That would be our honor. We'll surely invite you again on our waves, Mr. Wahid Ziadi. Let's recall that you are an Algerian author and poet.
Right.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.